this lesson, we are going to learn how to use our periodic table to name our ions. So let's look at the periodic table. If we look at the periodic table, it is organized in a way that it separates the types of element. There are three types of elements. Over here we have the metal. Then on the opposite side we have the non-metal. Then right in between the metal and the non-metal, we have the semi-metal. Now if you don't remember which side is a metal or a non-metal, choose one element that you know. For instance, we can choose copper right here. We all know copper is a metal, so therefore we know this side is going to be a metal. Vice versa, we can choose oxygen, which is the gas that we breathe in, of course, is gonna be non-metal. Just one quick way to memorize metals, non-metals, and semi-metal. How do we know which are the semi-metals? We just know that it is between a metal and a non-metal. If we look at our periodic table carefully, we know that this right here, the line is a lot darker and is bolded. We call this the bolded staircase. And why is this important? Because this is where you find your semi-metal. If we look at the bolded staircase, it is the top element and the bottom element. Those are the semi-metals, okay? So these are semi-metals. Except for only one element, and that is aluminum right here. It is a metal. So of course, it's not a semi-metal. So that's one thing you need to keep in mind. Top and bottom of the bolded staircase, they are semi-metals except for aluminum. Now let's go back and use our periodic table to name ions. The first type of ions we have is a positive ion, or a cation, pronounced cation. It takes the name of the element. That means if an element name is magnesium, the ion's name will also be magnesium. And then we just add the word ions to it. So let's look at an example. We have calcium right here, okay? So calcium is the name of the element calcium. When we are talking about calcium as an ion, we just add the word calcium ion. So calcium ion is the name of the ion for calcium element. And then if we look at sodium right here, we just add the word ion. Sodium ion will be the name for the ions of sodium. But in most cases, we just ignore the word ion. If we look at the whole entire periodic table, we notice the word ion is not there at all. And in most cases, it's true. We use the word ion to distinctively indicate that it is a positive ion. If we look at the entire periodic table, we notice all the positive ions are the metals plus hydrogen. So we have metal plus hydrogen. That is because hydrogen can lose or gain electron to be stable. One thing that we notice if we look at group B, some of the elements in group B can form multiple ions. For example, if we look at copper right there, copper can have 2 plus or 1 plus. So how do we know if we were to say, hey, I have copper ion, which copper ions am I using? What they use is the Roman numerals right here. So if we have copper 2, that tells you it is a 2 plus. If I have copper 1, that would be 1 plus. The same thing for chromium right here. We have chromium 3 that tell you that 3 right there, or the Roman numerals right there. It tells you specific charge of an ions. And one last thing I want to mention is that if we look at all the positive ions, why doesn't this periodic table have the word ions on it? Because in most cases, we use the term ion when we specifically say, hey, this is an ion to distinctive from the elements. One last thing I want to mention is the word ion. If we look at this periodic table and the naming of the positive ions, it doesn't have the word ions on it. And that is In most cases, the word ion is often not written. But if we want to distinctively say, hey, this is a cation of this element, we just add the word ions. So the option of adding the word ion or not adding the word ion is there. Now let's look at naming negative ions, or an anion pronounced anion. How do we name an anion? It's basically we drop the ending of the element and we add IDE to it. So let's look at one example. We have fluoride. Fluoride is coming from the element fluorine. Notice how we drop this ending, right? And we add IDE to it. The same thing for sulfur right here. When we look at sulfur, now in the ions form it's called sulfide because sulfur is like this, and we drop the ending and we add IDE, that becomes sulfide. That's a common trick for naming a negative ion. In some cases where the ending is not obvious to us, for instance, we have oxygen give us oxide, okay? So this is oxygen right here, or nitrogen give us nitride, phosphorus give us phosphide. So for our negative ions, we drop the ending and we add IDE. Why don't I have ions for this group? Remember, this is the noble gas. It is already stable already, so it doesn't form ions. And if we look at this one right here, we should know right away, this is a hydrogen that has gained 1 electron to be stable. That's why it has a negative charge right there. So if we zoom out, and we can say, which element would form a negative ion? We can say it is a nonmetal plus hydrogen that has gained 1 electron. And that's it. That's how you name ions.